Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. It is Saturday, November the 29th, and boy, oh boy, is the NFL playoff talk heating up. Really excited about jumping into some of the scenarios, but really want to react to Stephen A. Smith and what he said on First Take with Cam Newton and Ryan Clark and some of the guys as they were talking about a potential Green Bay Packers, Dallas Cowboys playoff matchup. You know, the Cowboys, if you're been keeping up here lately, are on a bit of a tear. They look like they're playing their best football of the year. You guys know the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys played arguably the best game of the season so far earlier with that, what was it, 40-40 tie, whatever the score ended up being, where both teams just absolutely lit the scoreboard up. It was my favorite game of the year, and I know many people were down on that tie at the time. Obviously, it's playing huge role in the playoff implications for not only the Packers, but potentially the Cowboys having that tie as opposed to an extra loss. So we'll get that reaction as well. Also, we will talk a little Chicago Bears. Hey, sooner or later, the Bears, you got to accept the fact that they're starting to beat better teams on down the stretch. And boy, do we have a matchup coming up, which we're going to dive into all week long. Packers, Bears, Lambeau Field, snow in the forecast, playoff implications on the line. It's going to be a blast. Before we get into all that, if you guys would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on the daily. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit subscribe and click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live here in the future. Everybody following into the chat. We got Michael in the house. Good to see you, buddy. We got Paging Dr. Crutch. We got Michael saying, Stephen A. Smith, oh, Lord, you know what's going to be. Actually, he's pretty calm in this one, and I kind of like the take, man. It's really interesting. Anytime the Packers and the Cowboys and the Bears are good, it's good for football, man. It doesn't get any better. I'm just glad that the little brothers, the little bros of the North, the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions have been beaten down now to where they belong. Now let's get back to what the black and blue division is all about, and that's Packers, Bears, and, of course, when you throw the Cowboys in the mix, potentially in the playoffs, absolutely awesome. IROC says Stephen A. Smith reaching a bit. I agree with that too. Maybe for me, IROC, I'm holding out a little bit of hope that it happens. You know, what's up? We got Joseph in the house. Good to see you, sir, and everybody else following in. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Hit that like button on the way in. Let's waste no time and get to it. Stephen A. Smith, like we had said here, I just tweeted this video out. Obviously, it's an audio from First Take, so you guys make sure you go give it a like and go give First Take a follow, all that good stuff. You know, we always try to give credit where credit's due, where the audio comes from. But again, I just tweeted out Stephen A. Smith's excited about a potential playoff matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. Packers, Bears, Cowboys, all in the playoff hunt. Things are right in the world once again. Let's play the audio. We'll stop it in between here and get everybody's take in the chat, and I'll give you my take as he hits point after point. Here's Stephen A. Smith from First Take. I've got it cranked all the way up. Hopefully you can hear it. If not, just try to crank the TV or your device up. Here we go.
Being real and honest about it. But when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, there's a lot to like about what you're seeing. Number one, the offensive line won the battle in the trenches.
Yep.
The defensive line took over late in the game, okay? Micah Parsons had 2.5 sacks, all right? Matt LaFleur has been more aggressive. Jordan Love was 3 for 3 on fourth downs, okay?
Jordan Love, 3 for 3 on fourth downs. Ice in his veins. Listen, there's something about Thanksgiving Day. Like I said the other day, if I'm Ed Policy, if I'm anybody in the front office for the Green Bay Packers that has anything to do with the NFL scheduling in terms of, hey, can we request this? Can we request that? I'm telling them I want to play on Thanksgiving Day every single year. Jordan Love has been unbelievable on Thanksgiving.
And we also have to remember all of this is happening with his number one target, Kraft, being out for the season. So we can
say it louder. Without your number one target in Tucker Kraft. What's funny is Stephen A. Smith don't even mention Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed's actually been the Green Bay Packers leading receiver the last 2 seasons, and he's been out. We're about to get him back, hopefully for the Bears game. How awesome would that be?
Can't forget that part, right? Yet Green Bay is still finding ways to do it. And most importantly, they're making statements defensively. And that's really what it's all about. When you acquired Micah Parsons, that's really the message that you wanted to send. Let's also give Micah Parsons, because we've been talking so much about the Dallas Cowboys and raving about what life has been for them without him. Let's remember that with him, the Green Bay Packers defense has been no joke at all, okay, number one. And number two, he's been terrorizing the opposition. Only Reggie White had double-digit sacks every year his first 5 years in the National Football League.
Only Reggie White has accomplished that.
Micah Parsons is the second one to do that stuff. We got to understand who the hell this dude is and what he brings to the table. And RC and Cam, let me tell you what else I'm getting excited about. I don't know if this is possible in terms of the seedings or whatever, but it's sort of looking like it could end up being a collision course with the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys meeting.
Hold up. You mean the Cowboys could get hot here, go on a run, make the playoffs, and you get another? I mean, think about it throughout the course of history, guys. Think about the Cowboys being that team. Let's go way back, all right? Let's go back to the Lombardi era, right? The year before in the NFL championship, I think down at the Cotton Bowl, if I remember correctly, right? You had the Green Bay Packers beating the Dallas Cowboys where I'm trying to think of which quarterback. I think it was actually Dandy Don Meredith. It might have been the year before, a couple of years before that, where he throws the interception to Dave Robinson, right? And that sealed it up. And then I think it was like the next year or maybe 2 years later, you get the Ice Bowl, the 1967 NFL championship at Green Bay, right? At Lambeau Field. At the time, I believe it was still referred to, 67. I believe it was called Lambeau Field at that time. I'm trying to think of when Curley passed away and they renamed the stadium from New City Stadium to Lambeau Field. Nonetheless, the Ice Bowl coming down to that quarterback sneak by Bart Starr. And then you fast forward to the 90s and how they were the team you couldn't get over the hump with, right, with Brett Favre. And then that finally happens and Green Bay gets their Super Bowl. And then you fast forward to the Aaron Rodgers era. I mean, the catch, Des Bryant, the catch, right? That game, all of that. And then you got Aaron, throwing across his body down there in Big D, hitting, Cook on the sideline, right? There's just so much history here, so much history. And then, of course, you had arguably the game of the year earlier this season. I think it would be great if the Cowboys could sneak in. Let's hear him continue here.
In the playoffs. I mean, could you imagine what that is going to be like? Could you imagine what the viewership for that game is going to be like? What the noise leading into that game, RC, Cam, is going to be like if that were to happen? I understand that it might not because you got the NFC South, and Dallas will probably play somebody like that as a wild card. But what if it don't happen like that? What if somehow, some way, it's the Cowboys up against the Green Bay Packers at some point? Lord have mercy. Now, that would be special. And that's what I'm starting to get a feel for.
It really would be special, man. I don't know if you guys agree. Let me know in the comments if you agree. I think that would be awesome to see those teams meet up in the playoffs. And let's just kind of talk about where we have these teams ranked currently, because Dallas is pretty far down the list. But again, this was going into this week. Okay, guys, this is our PTA Power Rankings. You can find this over in our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. And we do a number of different things in there to kind of give you guys a little bit more immersion, a little bit more in-depth analysis on the season. So we've got this sorted by overall grade, okay? And everything that goes in here evenly weighted: winning percentage, offensive scoring, defensive scoring, offensive yards per play, defensive yards per play, and turnover margin, okay? I feel like those are probably the most important statistics. Everything's evenly weighted here. So if you think, all right, winning percentage is most important, okay, cool. If you think scoring's more important, you can go in there and we give you guys access to that link where you can sort it yourself. You can sort by each of these columns, okay? But nonetheless, let's go through where Green Bay sits, where Dallas sits, and then we'll shift gears into Chicago a little bit, okay? So Green Bay is currently ranked 5th on our PTA power ranking system with a 7.3 score, low number, wins here, okay? So you got the Rams 1, the Colts 2, the Lions 3 coming into this week, keep in mind. The Seahawks 4, Green Bay 5. That's why I think that win over Detroit was so big. Many people have Detroit way further down, right? Because, going into this game, they had the 7th best winning percentage. But when you look at how they're playing football, guys, they were 3rd in scoring. They were 12th in scoring defense. They were 3rd in offensive yards per play and 7th in defensive yards per play allowed and 7th in turnover margin. So when you get a team that's got that kind of that grouping of those important statistics and those important rankings, That's a good damn football team right there, right? So you got Green Bay coming in the 5th spot here going into that game. 5th, they're 5th in winning percentage. They're 12th in scoring. Again, this is before this week's games. We'll reset it after all the games are played this week. They were 4th in defensive scoring, 12th in yards per play on offense, and 2nd in yards per play allowed on defense, with number 9 spot in turnover margin, right? So let's go find Dallas. Where's Dallas? Pretty far down the list. We have them ranked 20th. Now, again, I think they're going to jump a bit once we get the updated numbers, because they played pretty darn well here against the Kansas City Chiefs this week. And they're figuring out ways to win games. So that winning percentage obviously is going to go up, that number. They'll rise in the rankings there. They were 6th in scoring. Defense is where they're struggling, right? Scoring defense. That will be the thing that keeps them out of the playoffs, in my opinion. They're ranked 30th in scoring defense. Yards per play on offense, 5th. 27th in yards per play allowed on defense, and turnover margin coupled with that bad defense ranking 22nd. That's what they're really going to struggle with. Now, we'll see how they climb in the rankings. Just one of those teams that you got to kind of keep an eye on. When you look at our power rankings, you think, man, that's awful low for a team that might make the playoffs. Again, we always talk about get hot at the right time and be playing your best football as you approach the playoffs, because some of these teams above them, guys, are not going to make the playoffs. It's just not going to happen, right? So let's shift gears to talk about where Chicago's at on our list. Going into this week, I suspect they will raise a little bit after their performance yesterday, right? And listen, you got to tip your cap. I love rooting against the Chicago Bears as much as any other Packer fan. But I also want to be, if you see it, you got to say it on this channel. Chicago is figuring out ways to win football games. I know they got some help from the Eagles yesterday, who turned the ball over twice, once on a tush push, which was just absolutely wild, that Jalen Hurts is promoted as this extremely strong, possession-based quarterback. This is a guy that, man, he's just stronger than any other quarterback in the league. And he allowed, I believe, a DB to just come in and rip the ball out of his hands on that tush push. They kind of gave Chicago that game, but again, we're talking about them beating the defending Super Bowl champions. You got to tip your cap. At some point, you've got to acknowledge the fact that Chicago is a real threat. And you're seeing, I think last week the Packers had a dramatic lead going into this week of percentage of chances of winning the NFC North. That's dwindled a little bit, right? And the Bears are starting to catch up because they're playing really good football. And now we've got a matchup this Sunday at Lambeau Field, snow in the forecast, Packers, Bears, the game's oldest rivalry. Just doesn't get any better. So Chicago, winning percentage, 4th best coming into this week. They'll probably maintain around that spot or increase a little bit depending on who wins and loses this week. Scoring offense, guys, they're 10th in the league. 10th. That's better than the Packers, right? Now, defensive scoring, that's where they struggle, 29th. Offensive yards per play, they were 8th. Defensive yards per play, they're 30th. That's what was mind-boggling about Philly not being able to score points yesterday. Now, they are getting healthier. That's the healthiest we've seen the Chicago Bears defense. So they're getting healthy at the right time. We just lost Devontae Wyatt. However, we're getting some weapons back on offense with Jaden Reed, right? And these guys are continuing to get healthier on offense. You're now seeing Anthony Belton kind of taking over that starting right guard role. Will that help the offensive line moving forward? We'll see. But the big thing for Chicago is turnover margin. You know, yesterday they won that game against the Eagles. The middle eight was tied 0-0, but the turnover margin, they won the turnover battle 2-1, right? Caleb threw a interception, got tipped at the line and picked off. And listen, he played like cheeks. We'll talk about that here in a second if we have time. It's not like they're winning because of their quarterback. That's definitely not the case, right? So when you kind of step back and look at everything, what do you see with Chicago? In spite of their quarterback playing very, very inefficient football, they're running the hell out of the rock, and they're still continuing to be a top 10 offense. You got to tip your cap to Ben Johnson there. And that turnover margin is the big thing. Their defense is ranked really low, but they're taking the ball away, and that's the most important statistic when it comes to the NFL, in my opinion. So reality shift with the Super Chat. Thank you so much for the kind donation. Packers offense is first in the league in offensive points in the first quarter, and defense is first in the league in the fourth quarter in points allowed per game. That is a team who will make a deep playoff run. Those are in hugely important numbers. Can we tip our cap to this coaching staff? The fact that Matt LaFleur, right, has been able to capitalize on those key situations, those important situations. You know, everybody wants to just credit Jeff Hafley with the defense, and he deserves all the flowers. He is a hell of a DC. Who handpicked him? It was Matt LaFleur, right? So, yeah, those are Thank you for sharing those numbers, Reality Shift. That's absolutely huge. Just as you're looking at a team like Dallas starting to play their best football and down the stretch, those two statistics in the first quarter, they're scoring, fourth quarter points allowed. That might be the most important aspect of the scoring numbers for sure. So thank you so much for the super chat too there. All right, so there's just a quick look at the rankings. Drop that down. Now let's talk about their odds. The Bears' odds to win the North as they're constantly shifting. Kalshi Sports, obviously a gambling service, tweeted this out. The Bears' odds to win the NFC North are surging on Kalshi. It says, or Kalshi, however you say it. Can they hold off the Packers? So currently the Packers are still the betting favorites, all right, 52% to win the North, all right, in terms of just odds, I guess you could say. I don't even know if it's odds. Yeah, it says the Bears odds. So 52% chance the Green Bay Packers win the North. The Chicago Bears are now up to 36%. So they're closing in on the Packers. You're going, how are the Bears in the lead? Or how are the Bears second if they're leading the division? Because this takes everything into consideration. Probably quarterback play, probably defensive play, and also the strength of schedule up to this point. Now the Bears are on the back half, and they're starting to beat teams that are much better than the teams they had beaten earlier in the year. So you're seeing that kind of catch up. Detroit, guys, can we take a second? Let's clap it up. Clap it up for the Detroit Lions. You absolutely crapped the bed this year. You were supposed to be the big dogs. You were supposed to run away with this thing. You were supposed to win the North. You're supposed to be right back in a deep playoff run and pretend this is going to be the year. The window's open. The window is open for the Lions to win a Super Bowl. And you absolutely crapped the bed. Congratulations. So couldn't happen to a better franchise. So again, 8% chance that the Detroit Lions come back and win the North. All right. Yeah, as Coach Lance says, they had a good run, lasted about 2 seconds, right? And that window is going to start to dwindle, right? Because all that money's coming due, and you've kind of put all your eggs in a couple of different baskets. Now, I was watching yesterday, Lions fans absolutely implode, saying, we need to move on from Jared Goff. We need a mobile quarterback. I was like, man, y'all lost that energy real quick. So we'll keep an eye on the Lions, obviously, as we move forward. Now, if you're wondering, Clayton, you're being a little too hard on the Bears. I feel like I'm the only Packer fan saying, hey, guys, watch the Bears. They're figuring out how to win games. Maybe there's others out there that's saying it too. We did a watch party yesterday, and we said it 1,000 times in that, like, hey, this is a team that you're going to want to keep an eye on, right? Well, this is the thing that worries me about them. First Round Mock tweeted this out, said Caleb Williams sub 60% completion percentage in 8 of his last 9 games, 59.5%, 58%, 57%, 65%. I got to do it. I know it's awkward with the delay, but we still got to hit it. Anytime you hear 65% on this particular program.
65%.
65%. That's what is that his high this year? That's his high this year, 65%. 58%, 55%, 50%, 54%, 47% completion percentage. So if he continues to be that inefficient and you get teams that can come in and stop the run, which the Packers have one of the best run defenses in the league, keep in mind last week, what was everybody saying? Everyone was saying last week that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to come in and run a rock against Green Bay Packers. The Packers absolutely shut him down, made Jared Goff try to win it through the air, and he could not do that, right? Jordan Love was the hotter hand, and obviously Micah Parsons hitting home, like Stephen A. Smith just mentioned, was a huge factor in that game as well. Reality Shift with Super Chat. Thank you, sir. I messed up on my statistics. Thank you for correcting them, buddy. Appreciate it. It's the opposite, but still very important. Defensive first in first quarter and offensive first in fourth quarter. My bad. No, it's still the same thing applies, right? For sure. So the fact that the offense kind of comes alive in the first quarter. Now, I don't like that you're potentially playing behind more like that. But the big thing about the defense of Micah Parsons, when you get into the fourth quarter, though, man, he is the closer. I love what Jeff Hafley said. We need to start playing inner Sandman, right? But thank you for correcting that, Reality Shift. We greatly appreciate that, buddy. And thank you for taking the time to look up those numbers. So, again, that's the thing that worries me about Caleb Williams. If you guys go watch this video here, hopefully it don't play. Caleb, just throws the football right into the face mask. We've seen this at least a half a dozen times in Caleb's young career, just hitting a defensive lineman right in the face with the football throughout the season. So that's definitely something that you see a reoccurring issue. Now, if we go to the playoff simulator real quick, I wanted this to be a 10-minute video, but it's so awesome getting in here talking ball with you guys. Playoff simulator, let's take a look over at ESPN. All right.
So currently, the way it sits, making sure it's cleared off: Rams 1, Bears 2, Eagles 3, Tampa 4, Seattle 5, Green Bay 6, and the 49ers are the 7th seed as it sits right now. So we go into this week. Obviously, the Cowboys already won their game. The Bears won their game. The Packers won their game. Let's just go ahead and kind of let's paint a scenario here where the Cowboys could potentially get in, right? When you look at the standings here, it doesn't show in the hunt, but when you kind of look at some of the other teams that might potentially knock them out, let's say somehow, some way, the Browns, right? Actually, let's forget everything that applies here. Let's see how many wins in a row it would take for the Cowboys with no other teams to get into the playoffs here. Okay, so let's say the Cowboys win that game. Let's say the Packers win at home against the Bears. The Packers jump to the 2 seed. The Bears drop to the 6 seed. All right, and again the Cowboys with the win there. Let's go to Week 15. Cowboys again. Where are the Cowboys? Say they beat the Vikings, right? And let's say the Packers lose to the Broncos there. Okay, and we fall to the 6th seed. But let's also say that the Bears, they're probably going to beat the Browns. You never know. But let's say they beat the Browns there, right? They're going to continue to surge a little bit. Cowboys got their win. Let's go to Week 16. And just, again, following these 3 teams, let's see if anything changes. So let's say the Bears beat the Packers. Actually, no. Let's say the Packers beat the Bears in Chicago, if that happens. And let's say the Dallas Cowboys beats the Chargers. You can kind of see what their schedule looks like, right, with the Chargers here. I mean, that's kind of a tough matchup. I know they're down a little bit with the Chargers at 7-5 after the Cowboys if they beat them in that specific game there. But let's say like the Rams and the Seahawks, who's the better seed? So let's say the Rams beat the Seahawks, right? And now the 49ers, you could kind of see things start to shuffle around. If we bounce back to Week 15, let's say the Colts beat the Seahawks. The Cowboys all of a sudden are in the playoffs. Now, do I think the Seahawks are going to lose multiple games in a row? Probably not. They played pretty good football this year. Although if you go back to our ranking system, their turnover margin has been really, really bad. But you can kind of see we can get into Week 15, and in a realistic standpoint, you can see the Cowboys potentially climbing up in that 7th seed, and that's what they're talking about. If that happens up to this point, look at what we got going on here, guys. The Dallas Cowboys returning to Green Bay to play the number 2 seed Green Bay Packers, if all that were to shake out. Now, if we bounce back here 1 week, I believe it was 1 week, and say the Bears beat the Packers, all of a sudden the Packers are the 6th seed and the Cowboys are going to Chicago, right? I'm telling you, man, this playoff hunt has been an absolute blast so far. It's been so much fun, and it's only going to get better. That's what's awesome, man. So let's jump into the Patreon group real quick. These are questions for the show. I'm going to try to start hitting them when we do these random live streams. You guys, this is another perk to being a Patreon member, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. We'll try to read your comments on the air here. That was something just about the injury there from Chris N. Appreciate the information there on the shoulder of Jordan Love. Bill in the chat said AC sprains were very common in football. They do hurt quite a bit. And if throwing a shoulder, he'd miss a couple weeks, even with the grade 1. If he takes a hard shoulder-to-shoulder hit or get that shoulder driven into the ground, it can easily re-injure. Definitely a concern, but he stayed clean today and even slid. I was clapping that up. Thank you, Jordan Love, for sliding on that scramble, for Lord's sake. Have we learned our lesson? Let's stop. I love seeing a quarterback run through DB's faces. As a matter of fact, we had a screen grab for the longest time. I don't know if we still got it here. But that happened earlier this year. I think we've had to move on from it, where he just silly bodied somebody. But man, get on the ground, dude. That's the whole season's on the line with your help, right? Doug in the chat said, Chris, I think Baker Mayfield has the same injury in his non-throwing shoulder, and he's not playing. There's a great point right there. Right now, Jordan looked much better, obviously, on Thanksgiving. Now we got this little bit of a long stretch before we play again. I think that's great information, great news for the Packers as well. Bob Noxious had a question here I wanted to hit. Clayton sometimes refers to a Tuesday player. I asked Perplexity what that means, and it said it's a derogatory phrase, a guy who looks good in practice and not during the game. That's clearly not what Clayton means. Can I get some clarification? I believe it means teams start planning for how they play against him on Tuesday. That's right. Typically, Tuesdays are days off for the team. Okay, so what will happen is if they play on Sunday, the players will come in on Monday and get treatment. Their off day is typically Tuesday, unless it's a short week or hey, they're not playing as well. They'll try to get them in there on Tuesday as well. But with the day being the off day being Tuesday, this is a Bill Belichick, Bill Walsh reference. Okay, Tuesday player means the coaches meet on Tuesday and they start to formulate the game plan for the upcoming opponent. And the first thing they start with is, who are our Tuesday players? Now, some organizations may not refer to that. I'm just going off of what Bill Belichick, Michael Lombardi, Bill Walsh, some of the old heads, Bill Parcells, those type of guys, they would call them Tuesday players. When we have our meeting on Tuesday, which players do we have to stop on offense? So they have a player that's like, hell or high water, we got to make sure he's not a game breaker. Same thing on defense. So that's the term Tuesday player. Now, perplexity, obviously, you got to be careful with AI, and I use AI a lot. I like it. I think it's a very, very good tool. But perplexity is going to take that like, oh, a Tuesday player. Okay, so they look good in practice, but not good in the game. We call those card players. All right, that's another Bill Belichick reference. And a card player is, Coach probably knows about this. Coach Lynn in the chat. When you go in and you practice, the scout team will typically go and they'll have a card, right? They'll give a card and go, okay, this team likes to run this specific play. Everybody looks at the card. What's my role? Let's run that play, and they practice against that specific play, right? Some players, knowing what their assignment is on the card, listen, your assignment is to just go out there and run that play. And Bill Parcells talked about this, and Bill Belichick talked about it as well. They're a card player. They can look at that play on the card and go, oh, I can do that. All right, cool. And they'll just do their job really, really good in practice. Well, guess what? The other team's game planning, or the other side of the ball is game planning against it. It's the goal isn't, let's see how successful we can be against this play. It's to identify what are the strengths and weaknesses of that play. And sometimes guys will flash. Those practice players, those card players will flash in practice. Belichick, and I think Michael Lombardi once mentioned on the GM shuffle when he was doing that before he took the GM job in North Carolina. He mentioned, man, this player here specifically was unbelievable in practice. We get into game day, and when you had to read and react when the other team was running something, a little bit of a counter off of what you planned for all day, they couldn't adjust in real time. So, yeah, perplexity doesn't understand that buried in some of these old football books and listening to podcasts where there's interviews with these coaches, they're not going to be able to just comb through the internet and find what that Tuesday player reference meant. I always try to mention what we mean by that Tuesday player. So, yeah, that's definitely inaccurate there. But, Bob, thank you for asking because, again, you got to be careful with AI. And I run into it all the time, guys. I'll ask AI, man, hey, type me up a YouTube description, give me bang, bang, bang for this game here coming up on this date. It'll mention a coach that coached 6 years ago that's no longer in the league as if that's the coach that week, right? So you got to be real careful with that stuff. It just tries to generally put thoughts together in some cases. Now, if you know how to take it a layer deeper, it can be absolutely huge. But this isn't a AI seminar here. Obviously, we're just talking ball. But that's it, guys. I wanted to give you guys, like I said, just a quick look at what Stephen A. Smith said about the Dallas Cowboys. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. If you're watching this video back later, let me know. First of all, who do you think has the better chance of winning the North based off of the remainder of the schedule and how these teams are playing right now? What's awesome about this black and blue division, and it's back to normal now, Packers, Bears fighting for the NFC North. Both teams are playing pretty good football, right? And they're about to collide. And it's going to be absolutely awesome. 2 games in 3 weeks between these two. And also let us know in the comments what you think about the Dallas Cowboys. Do you think they got a legit shot at making the playoffs? Do you agree with Stephen A. Smith? Would that be a good thing? Or maybe you're just a Cowboy hater and you'd like to see them fall on their face. That's welcome here too. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you subscribe and click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. Like later on today, we'll be going live for PTA Live, I'm sure. We'll be giving you guys another breakdown. I'm going to start diving into the tape. We got a little bit longer week, so we got a little bit more time to kind of dig into everything. But we're going to get you guys a Chalk Talk segment put together where we'll go live one evening and break down the 15, 20 most important plays from the win the Packers had over the Lions. That's something else that you're going to want to click that bell icon so you're notified when we go live for that stuff here in the future. Everybody in the live stream, do me a big quick favor, man. Take a second, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. You guys have been crushing that here lately, and it's helping the channel a lot. So Michael says, have a blessed day, Clayton. You too, sir. Everybody, have a wonderful day out there. Enjoy some awesome college football. We got the game, Ohio State at Michigan. Flurries in the forecast. It's going to be a cold game. Can Michigan upset Ohio State? That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then we got some other great games down the stretch here in the afternoon. Tomorrow, there's a chance I may put a watch party together. I got awesome feedback yesterday from our Bears-Eagles watch party that we did since the Packers weren't playing. Well, obviously, they're not playing tomorrow either. We may pick one of these matchups out off the schedule. And I don't have the schedule handy right now, but maybe one of these NFC matchups, one of these teams that's in the playoff hunt that we're going to want to root against, maybe we can get in here and do a live watch party, watch some football together again, because it was absolutely awesome. So there you go, Doug in the chat. On Wisconsin. Let's get that axe. Thanks, Clay. Hey, thank you, buddy. Yeah, go Badgers today. Everybody hit that like button. We'll see you guys later this afternoon. Have a wonderful day. Hey, go out there and be a blessing to somebody. Make somebody smile today, man. Let's be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack, go.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.